Okay, so first example, we're doing two things with these notes. We're doing how to graph when we're in the point slope form, and then we are also doing how to write an equation. Okay, so here's our first one. We have y minus 2 equals 3/4 times the quantity x minus 5. So the template is what I call it when there's no numbers in it. The template is y minus y1 equals m times the quantity x minus x1, where the m is being multiplied times the quantity. In this case, m is 3/4. So that's really easy, which means the positive 3 tells us to go up by 3 and the positive 4 tells us to go right by 4. Of course, we need to know where to start. That's where the x1, y1 comes in. Now notice that this minus is part of the template. So when you're down here and you see this, you ignore it. So I ignore this because that's part of the template. Y sub 2, I'm sorry, not y sub 2, I said 2 because of that. Y sub 1 is 2. Over here, we've already worked with the m, so we can ignore that. You ignore the x, you ignore the negative sign. X sub 1 is 5. So x sub 1 comma y sub 1 is going to be 5 comma 2. Notice, not negative 5 comma negative 2. Simply 5 comma 2, because the negative sign is part of the, or the minus, whatever you want to call it, is part of the template. So a lot of students, although it's not my favorite, students will look at this and they'll go, oh, the opposite of that. So the opposite of negative 2 is positive 2, and the opposite of negative 5 is positive 5. I guess I don't mind if you say that as long as you understand why. It's because we have to take out the information that is in the template and identify strictly what the x1 and the y1 are. Okay, so then that means I'm going to start at 5 comma 2 and I'm going to move up 3 and write 4. So 5 comma 2, I'm going to move up 3, 1, 2, 3, and write by 4, 1, 2, 3. Oh, I basically run off. So instead of up and right by 4, I'll go down 3, 1, 2, 3, and left by 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, and I'll do it again. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so here's our line. Let me grab a ruler. Oh, do you guys hear all of that noise in the hallway? That's because the lunch just got out. Okay, and there's number 2. All right, and now we're going to pick it up a little bit. So I have y minus y sub 1 equals m times the quantity x minus x sub 1. So I have m, that's in front of the parentheses, that's negative 2. We know that we need that as a fraction, so I'll put that negative 2 over 1, which means I'm going to move down 2 and write 1. Then I need to identify what my point is, my x sub 1 comma y sub 1. So I look at this and I go, oh, wait a minute, there's not a minus, it's a plus. So how did this plus come to be when the template has y minus y1? It came from y minus negative 2 equals negative 2 times the quantity x minus 7. So y minus negative 2 is where the plus comes from, because when you add, when you subtract a negative, we're really adding it. So in this case, y sub 1 is negative 2. Y sub 1 is negative 2. X sub 1, so I ignore the x, I ignore the negative sign, because that's from the template, right? So that means x sub 1 is a positive 7. Now, it's not my favorite, but if you look at this and you do that whole what's the opposite trick, well, the opposite of positive 2 would be negative 2. The opposite of negative 7 would be positive 7. One thing that you need to be really careful about is location. just because I write x comma y does not make this one the x. The y's are on the same side together and the x's are on the same side together. Okay, so this one is y sub 1 and this one is x sub 1. Okay, so that means I'm starting at 7 comma negative 2. 7 comma negative 2, and I'm supposed to go down by 2 and right 1 by 1. Down by 2 and right by 1. Or up by 2, left by 1, 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 etc. I put on as many points as I can. Okay, and this is what we're doing for the next 3. Okay, I've got y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. So m equals 3. I need it as a fraction. Go up by 3 and right by 1. x1 comma y1. x1, oh, I've got that plus sign, right? So it's not going to be a positive 2. It's going to come from x minus negative 2. So x sub 1 is negative 2. And y sub 1, I've got my y's that I ignore. I've got my negative signs that I ignore. That makes y sub 1 a positive 8. So I start at negative 2, negative 2, positive 8, negative 2, positive 8. And then this tells me go up by 3 and right by 1. Up, 1, 2, 3, right 1, don't have space. So instead of going up and right, I will go down and left. So down 3, 1, 2, 3, and left by 1. Down 3, 1, 2, 3, left by 1. Nice and pretty. Okay. Alright, this one is a little bit of an oddball because I've got y plus 6 equals negative 1/3 x. I don't see any parentheses going on here, right? So if the template is the same, y minus y sub 1 equals m times the quantity x minus x sub 1. Still, my m is in the same spot pretty much, right? My m is the coefficient of x in this case. I like my negative sign in the numerator, so I'm going to say negative 1 divided by 3. That means I'm going to go down 1 and right 3. Now, as far as my x sub 1, y sub 1, okay, so I see that this is a plus. This only became a plus if I subtract a negative. So I have y minus negative 6. That means that y sub 1 is negative 6. And my x sub 1, wait a second. Where did x sub 1 go, right? The only way x sub 1 or y sub 1, the only way they completely disappear is if they are 0. So in this case, x sub 1 is 0. So I will be starting at 0 comma negative 6, and I will go down 1 and right 3. 0, negative 6, down 1 and right by 3, down 1 and right by 3, or up 1 and left by 3. And then finally, this is another one that's kind of an oddball, right? If I write the template under it, I'm going to have y minus y sub 1 equals m times the quantity x minus x sub 1. Okay, so m is equal to 3/2, which means I'm going to go up by 3 and right by 2. And then as far as my x1 comma y1, I have x sub 1, which, turned into a plus, right? The only way I got that plus is if I said x minus negative 5. So x sub 1 is negative 5. Y sub 1, no y sub 1. I just see y. I don't see any more numbers, which means that number had to be 0. Okay, so I'm going to start at negative 5 comma 0. And I'm going to go up 3 and right 2. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. 1, 2, 3, 1. Oh, I'm out of space. So instead of up and right, I will also go down and left. 1, 2, 3, left by 2, down 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, oh, run out of space. Okay, and that's it.